Saudi Arabia is widely celebrated for pioneering a supposedly gentle, humane solution to violent extremism. It's a system built around rehabilitation centers that look more like high-end resorts than prisons. Inmates spend their days entirely free from trials or torture, passing the time with art therapy and swimming pools. The official story claims these facilities exist to offer former combatants ideological re-education. It is framed as a compassionate second chance to peacefully rejoin society. But this widely accepted history is an intentionally partial view. Looking at the mechanics of the program reveals a gap between the public image and the state's actual methods. To understand how this luxurious system operates, we have to look closely at the enforcement methods the state deploys before anyone gets access to the amenities. The actual counterterrorism apparatus in Saudi Arabia is driven by an unseen enforcement mechanism known as the Mabahith, the state's secret police. For years, they swept up thousands of suspects and held them entirely outside the legal system, with zero access to legal representation or fair trials. These suspects disappeared into black site prisons, like the notorious Al Hayr facility. Far removed from resort comforts, inmates faced severe interrogations here. Outside those prison walls, the police applied intense psychological and financial pressure. They froze bank accounts and routinely held family members hostage to force fugitives out of hiding. When capturing suspects wasn't an option, the state authorized lethal enforcement. Heavily armed security forces simply executed suspected militants directly during violent street shootouts. Those famous rehabilitation centers are never offered as an alternative to state violence. They serve purely as the final holding pen for the fraction of suspects who managed to survive the government's total physical domination. The state deployed these extreme measures to counter an entrenched insurgency from Al-Qaeda, a group actively fighting to seize control of the entire Arabian Peninsula. The insurgency operated with three core objectives. The first was the complete expulsion of American and Western military forces stationed within the Holy Land. Second, they intended to cripple the Saudi economy by deliberately targeting the region's massive Western-owned oil infrastructure. To accelerate this economic collapse, the group struck residential compounds, aiming to terrorize the foreign workforce into leaving the country. These steps were designed to build toward their final objective, fatally weakening and ultimately overthrowing the Al Saud royal family. Facing a militia attempting to gut the economy and collapse the government, standard policing protocols failed. The conflict escalated into an absolute war for state survival. To execute this strategy across major urban centers like Riyadh, Al-Qaeda relied on massive vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices, essentially large-scale car bombs. The destructive scale of a single VBIED was enormous. Their blast radiuses completely annihilated targeted government offices and severely damaged surrounding commercial sectors. While the insurgents explicitly claimed they did not want to kill ordinary Muslims, the sheer size of the explosives made that impossible. The shockwaves tore through city blocks, resulting in massive collateral damage and killing countless unarmed pedestrians and security guards. To legally and theologically justify the crackdown, the state classified Al-Qaeda members as Khawarij, or extreme religious deviants. Insurgents returned fire with their own classification, labeling the Saudi royals as Murtad, or apostates, framing the government as agents of American imperialism. The lethal car bombs and the secret torture sites were both products of this absolute zero-sum war over the true interpretation of Islam. Looking closely at the pristine luxury of the rehabilitation facilities now, the context shifts entirely. The pools and art rooms sit at the end of a long trail of physical devastation. For Al-Qaeda, these programs are state-run brainwashing factories, operated by apostate clerics instructed to forcibly reprogram captured fighters. From the Saudi state's perspective, the centers serve as a strict theological quarantine, built to systematically cleanse the deviant Khawarij ideology from broken insurgents. By dismantling an enemy's worldview and reconstructing them as a compliant citizen, the state achieves a more permanent victory than simple physical elimination. This is the reality of the Saudi model. It is a ruthless two-step assembly line, complete physical and financial decimation, followed by mandatory ideological submission.